Hello everyone, I'm ImKibitz and welcome back to Satisfactory, where last time we started processing the aluminum, or at least the first stage, where we get the bauxite and some coal and we turn the bauxite into alumina. Then after it's made into alumina and fed some coal, then it becomes aluminum scrap, and the scrap is brought all the way to nowhere. Nowhere yet. That is today's big plan. We're gonna build the 500-ish smelters to make all of that scrap into actual ingots. We have blueprints set up for this too, so it shouldn't be too bad, where 720 scrap will enter these smelters, and they're overclocked and balanced, so it can handle the entire belt, and make us 360 ingots per minute, using this alternate pure aluminum ingot recipe. And then, we can finally test the system and see what's wrong. Oh boy. You think with all these valves, everything's gonna work out all hunky-dory first try? I don't think so. In fact, we're gonna start off with a mistake I've already made way upstairs. Because you see, we're getting all the coal and the bauxite mostly from trains. These trains go all over the place, over like the swamp, all through the red forest here, etc., etc. And for the train to pick up the goods and get back to base, that takes time. Throughput time. And if our systems downstairs eat through all of the train's goodies before the train can get back to reload the station, well then our system would go down, which is very bad. So to avoid that, you usually want to have a large storage bin right next to your train stations to help buffer things out. As you might notice, I have not built any large storage bins anywhere. So step one is to buffer all of the train items, which I really should have done last time. What are you gonna do? Nice thing is that most of our base is empty right now, so although the belt work is gonna be spaghetti nonsense, at least we have the room for a lot of this. Let's grab our hover pack and figure things out. How many belts do we have here? 3? Alrighty. Except there's one mission critical thing that must be kept in mind. I have measured these belts way downstairs to make sure that everything is properly balanced. Like some of these belts are pure nodes, some of them are impure nodes, etc., right? So, when we're rebelting things back onto the line, we have to be certain that this belt goes to this bin and then back to whence it came. So like here. And then, wait, I guess to here? And something like that. And yep, this is gonna be a headache. But it's only the first of many. So train system 1 is done. It is just a total mess, as you'd imagine, but all good to go. And this was easy mode. Now we have to do the exact same deal up here. Oh, great. Okay, how many belts do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? Okay. You know, there's a silly dreamer world I'm living in right now, though, where we could fit all of those 11 bins right in here. And you know what? I'm holding out hope. There might be just enough room. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? But maybe I miscounted. Always fun using the dismantle tool, actually, to count for me. Ooh! Still kinda sucks, but at least it should look cool. All right, maybe that's a subjective opinion though. This is a nightmare. But over here it kind of looks cool. Just don't look at all of this, okay? Tracking all of where the belts are going is just a lot. But it's done. Throughput issues should be solved, and if not, we can just add on extra trains from here on out, which is no biggie. So back down into the pit for further processing. We have all of the scrap and we need to turn it into the ingots. And after doing all that bin stuff, I had a great idea. We're going to build the smelters up on a subfloor here, and then we're gonna do the input and output belt stuff underneath. That way we can see all of the nice little smelters chilling up here. And if the belt work gets too bad, well, we can just fill this in and not ever see it again. Or heck, maybe we can decorate it to make it look cool. Don't know. But already though, every set again takes up 720 scrap per minute. Yes. So how we'll go about this is we'll have 2 of these units, or blueprints, and we'll have 2 separate belts of scrap entering there. Then it overflows through the rest of the smelters. The smelters take the scrap, and it's a 2-to-1 ratio, scrap to aluminum. So I guess I should change the blueprint around, but what are you gonna do? But what I can do right now is we can combine these 2 blueprints together here. So then we'll have a 720 belt of aluminum that goes this way, and we'll send it downstairs to take somewhere else. Now, inputting the aluminum, gonna be a bit of a thing. So over in the refineries, we already have the bauxite dealt with again. We already have the scrap being made, but as you can see, we're making 360 scrap per refinery, which means because our Mark V belts can only handle 780 resources per minute, that means we can only merge 2 refineries before the belt is capped. So there's no avoiding it. There's going to be belt spaghetti everywhere. And in no time, this will be nuts. So instead of working on the rest of the belt work right now, let's finish up the planning. So most of the floors here, at least these first 2, have 30 refineries built on them, making, oh geez, about 10,800 aluminum scrap per minute, which will equate to about 15 belts, meaning we need 15 of these smelter setups per floor. And by the way, all of these are like overclocked to be balanced. Like if we didn't overclock, yeah, dude, we're not gonna live in that reality. We're not gonna think of that reality. I gotta save a lot of my sanity for later, okay? But how many smelters did we get built here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we need another set of 5. I guess we build over this way. And there we go. That is the first set of smelters. Now we just have to bring the items over. But Mr. Kibitz planned a little bit, and we at least have an entire tile of space to work with. So no matter how crazy everything gets, we can always keep building up. And then we just want to find ways to bring the materials over. So I want to make these giant belt bridges of scrap going over to the schmeltes, because it'll look cool looking down on. Like that's kind of the theme of having this open pit here, is we'll look down and we'll see all this stuff moving and it'll look really neat. And the scrap is in like little yellow bins and it will look the neatest. So right here seems like a pretty good lane. We don't hit the other item elevators. Go straight across. All right. Yeah, this looks pretty good. We can figure things out on that end. On this end, we don't bonk our heads. Well, it's a little bit of a tight squeeze. And then at the end of the day here, we can use conveyor floor holes to bring a ton of different belts out and across. And into all of the schmeltes. So that idea to have the schmeltes on the top floor and the belt work on the bottom floor, genius, absolute genius. I couldn't recommend that enough. It was so much easier doing all of this, all these shenanigans down here than having to worry about dodging schmeltes and making things look good. No, this is easy peasy. So all these are built, ready to go. The aluminum ingots go downstairs, and I have them stacked up, ready to go somewhere else. And most importantly, this is gonna look really, really cool. Having this belt bridge going off and across, and then having all the yellow bins, oh my gosh, I cannot wait, especially when both floors are running. Because I did the exact same thing now for the other set of 30 over here. Same belt stacking, different day, you know how it goes. Unfortunately, we had a bunch of the refineries built over here, so I could just kind of bring them around the side and just over this way. So we didn't have to have too many belts going across the bridge. So we have to keep it looking tasteful down there. It's gonna be real easy to build bridges just across all over the place, but we have to be able to see the void. I must stare into the abyss. It calls to me. I must comply. No, I'm kidding, I got work to do. In fact, we have to go in the opposite direction right now. We have all this aluminum, right? Well, what am I doing with all of it? Why did I collect all the bauxite in the world anyway? Well, it's gonna be a little surprise for later. For now, we needed to go into awesome sinks. Awesome sinks way at the top of the base there. So we're gonna build giant item elevators like these for all of the aluminum. And don't worry, I won't go through the whole process here. I've done it many times before. But just for people who might not have caught it, there is a really, really cool trick you can do with conveyor lifts. And you can make them go up an infinite height. So you don't get stopped like there. No, you can go, heck, to the top of the world if you wanted. And you need to have a conveyor floor hole built in order to do this trick. So you go down to your starting height. You go exactly underneath where the floor hole is. And then you look up. If you look directly at it, it should connect. But if you're a little too far away, you have to kind of fly up to actually see it. There you go. Goes past the conveyor limits and up to the floor hole, and you're good. So now, just want to do that with, I think it's like 15 belts of aluminum down here. Oh, and complete things. Oh my gosh, my power. No! Not today, Void. Not today. And isn't it beautiful? Freaking love giant item elevators. They're the best. Yeah, all of them. Up to the ceiling they go. Through it, in fact, where we now have a... Oh gosh, there's two! What is all this stuff? Ah! Okay, where we now have a ton of awesome sinks. We have 294 coupons right now. Oh man, we're making about 41,000 points per minute. Let's say 40,000. Yeah, this number is going to explode. I don't know how many points an aluminum ingot is worth, but at this scale, it could be like 2. We're gonna have more coupons than we know what to do with. All right though, it is test time. I did some final little prep work here. Got all the belts actually brought to the elevators, and then I also completed this floor. We're not using this floor yet, but it will be for aluminum. We just have to make more bauxite in the future. Anyway, so don't worry about that. We are simply going to run this and then scream as everything breaks, because I know I've made mistakes somewhere. You can't have this much belt work and not have mistakes, okay? Something that I simply accept with myself. You know what? How do I even turn this thing on? It's like number 1 is we hook up the water. Sure. And over this way, is the coal connected? It can be. Start filing in, friendos. We have a load balancer here to make sure the appropriate amount of coal goes to the right place. If you want information on that, check out the last video, not re-explaining. And you are supposed to be a pure belt, or a 1,200 item per minute belt, but we don't have the tech yet. So we'll have to upgrade this in the future. For now, we're just testing things out, seeing what explodes, or what doesn't explode, or what past Kibs was up to. Okay, why would I have ever done this? Whatever. All right, things are properly connected there now. Good. Do we just connect the bauxite now? Yeah, off the bauxite goes. Each one of these systems is a system of 3. It's just a blueprint, right? They're gonna be available on Patreon, and they take 200 bauxite per minute each. So each blueprint or system takes 600. This is a 600 belt, goes into that, all is well. Some of these, like I was saying, are going to be 1,200 belts of bauxite once we have the better belts available. So they split up between 2 systems. So unfortunately for the time being, they're not gonna run super well. That's okay. I don't need the full 1,200 per minute yet. I do need another bauxite line though. What's going on here? This is going over this way? What? Uh-oh. We might be missing some bauxite? Excuse me? This goes into there. That to there. And then, is there another bauxite line for this? There is. I saw it. I didn't see it. I'm panicking. I've spent so long on this. Where is it? One of these must be pure, right? That's moving, going over there. Pure line. Okay, this line. It's the bottom belt, this one. Bottom belt, and it goes to there. Splitter, no, that's set up properly. I'm only slightly starting to panic. Wait! 780. This is gonna be 1,200 per minute eventually. It only goes to one system over there. Yes, dude, this is the one. The chosen one. Come with me. Here, go down into there. All right. Good. Of course, past Kibs would never forget anything, right? No, there's another one. Okay, so we're 600 short down here. I thought we got so lucky. Yep. Well, when I say 600 short, it means I must have an extra belt up here with excess bauxite. So I'll hook all this up and see where I goofed. And then as everything gets running, start to be able to notice other little problems. But as things are starting up, it's looking cool at the very least. We have all the smelters built for each floor. Everything's moving, everything's grooving. These towers, kind of looks like some kind of weird barcode kind of thing. The bauxite flowing, or at least starting to. Right on, if I give this a few minutes, things will get a lot crazier. Crazier in the best way possible. Now that things have warmed up a little bit, we got scrap flowing. Both these towers are sending items up. We got the bauxite going down, except for this. What is this? Why isn't, oh, okay. We have an empty belt of bauxite. That kind of checks out. So earlier with the bins, I was talking about throughput issues, right? Well, we do have the bin for a buffer, but at some point, we might run into the issue where we just need more trains. And it seems that's where we've arrived. Like the buffer isn't enough, maybe we could add in more, but most likely we're just gonna need more trains bringing more items. You can see here, the transfer rate is 312 per minute. We're probably getting this bauxite from an impure node as well, but this bin is emptying, so yeah, it's not fast enough. But again, not like a biggie, just more trains for me. And with the trains, all you really need to do is set up the timetable the exact same as the other train. So this is Station Swamp in 2. We'll edit this. We'll have this be the destination. I match it with Swamp Out 2. Save, turn on self-driving, and throughput problem solved. Moving back downstairs though, there were a couple issues I started to notice after everything was moving and grooving, but they're kind of not problems because there's nothing we can really do about them right now. Since I don't have the Mark 6 1,200 item per minute belts, some of these systems just don't work properly. And since they don't work properly, the water ends up backing up. So I did a little temporary solution, at least until we get the upgrade. And I have some of the water going up, going over, and being disposed of using the wet concrete alternate recipe. Just combines a little limestone, some water, and makes concrete. And the whole purpose of this is just to get any amount of water out of this system. Because so long as these machines don't back up with water, all is good. The system will keep flowing. Not well, but it'll keep flowing. And then as for the limestone and the concrete, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all getting synced. Besides that, for as much as we can fix and tinker with, we're good. Everything is as good as it can be. And the system is alive. Now take a guess at how many coupons or how many points per minute we're getting. When we last checked, before we had aluminum running, we had about 40,000 coupons per minute. Now with this, man, I don't even know. I can't even give you an estimate. Again, I don't even know how much one aluminum is as points per minute. I'm gonna guess 200,000 points per minute. So now we're at 302 coupons and what? So my guess was off by an order of magnitude. Neat. That's neat. That's very lots. Very, very cool. And who knows, as I tinker with things further, maybe we get even more coupons per minute. We will see. Since I've made some of the changes, we might have to add in more trains, maybe more belts. I'm not 100% sure. I really just have to keep this monitored and then keep checking the coupon points per minute to see how things are running. But I won't bore you with any more of that. Instead, we're gonna change up some stuff with our base here. The big one being, it's our hypertube network. Because for the longest time, I've been using this one random booster that kind of knocks my head into the roof here. Then I go downstairs, and then I run into our control room, and then I go off from there collecting items or whatever. But this is silly. This is goofy. When we have this absolutely gorgeous hypertube hub. Like, the room is beautiful, we have the hypertubes ready to go, we have boosters set up on the walls, there's no reason why not to use it. Just have to actually properly set it up. So there's little signs underneath all of the entrances here, so we can say this goes to, I don't know, just to like our workspace. We can have another hypertube that goes over to a hypertube cannon that can launch us through other places in the world. Say we want to get to our space elevator, go in here, and just goes over to another hypertube somewhere else. In fact, I've already kind of gotten started, brought some of the hypertubes through here. One actually just comes to this workspace area. This is where I work on random projects or temporarily automate stuff, what have you. But then this hypertube cannon, or route, leads to a cannon? Wait, what just happened there? Okay, that will have to be reviewed. But anyway, I set up the first hypertube path, which leads off to a hypertube cannon that will go to the space elevator. So just kind of sneaked it around the base here, through some of the floors, out and around, and at the end of the day, ends out in a little booster and can send us over to here. So we're gonna have hypertube cannons and paths that go all over the place. We'll have another cannon that goes way far to, what is this, the west, one to the north, one to the east, and then just a bunch of others set up inside of our base. Because it's a big place, okay? Sometimes I need to get up, sometimes I'm going down. A lot of the time, I'm moving all around. You think I'm just gonna be pitter-pattering or using my jetpack to move around all the time? I don't think so. Also, this little temporary cannon I've used for the last 50 hours. I have bonked my head enough. And one second though, one thing I need to check here is, oof. I was wondering why we went into there and didn't get like dropped off in this hypertube room. Okay, what happened is we left through there, right? And I think I've built these too close together. So instead of just dropping out of there, we're getting sucked up into the next tube. And then to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Oh, that's terrible. Because for some of these hypertubes that are gonna go to other areas of our base, I wanna have it come back to here. And what can happen is, if we get dropped off at this point, what I can do is I can actually build a jump pad. I can build the jump pad on the wall. Oh my gosh, I forgot that was a thing. Okay, we can have the jump pad immediately bounces back onto the center platform, and then we can scoot around to like the next booster and go from there. It's gonna be so good. Plus, if I paint that black, we probably won't be able to see it. Oops. From way over here, right? Hardly at all. Doesn't ruin any of the aesthetic. Ah, it's perfect except for the fact all these have to be moved. It's fine. Once this is actually running and useful, we'll be in this room more. Seeing this room will make me happy and will improve the entire gameplay experience. And mentally prepare me for all of the nonsense with the aluminum we're gonna have to deal with in a moment. So it took a little bit of time to do both walls, but it is so worth it. The room is now complete, and more importantly, it's functional. I have hypertubes going everywhere. We got a hypertube that goes to the very tippy top of the base, a hypertube cannon that goes to north, south, east, and west. One that just simply goes to our workspace. So it just goes through the wall. And I fixed the problem where we're getting sucked up to the next tube by spacing things out. And look at this. Isn't that neat? We fall out of the tube, we hit the bounce pad, we end up right here. It's amazing. In fact, I actually have something even more cool to show you. We have another hypertube cannon that brings us all the way downstairs over to the trucks, kind of where I had that temporary cannon before. And I decorated it a little bit to make it look good. But I've made the hypertube cannon a two-way system. So check this out. We boost all the way up here, go over here, something happens there, and then we're pooped out right onto the pathway. But how did I do it? Don't worry, of course I will show you. Going out to the workspace here, you probably didn't notice on the way down, but as we went through the wall here, there's this space where we are jettisoned out of the hypertube, enter another entrance, and then go all the way down to our destination. But then using the same hypertube on the way back, there isn't an entrance on the other side. So we kind of just slam our heads on this, and then we fall down to the final one down here. That sucks us up, and then that ends us right to here. Because of that hypertube that we're taking back took us to here, and we fell down there, we're just gonna get sucked up by the next hypertube. So we keep the aesthetic here, and we're able to have all the functionality out here. It's perfect. It's awesome. We can expand this through all the rest of the hypertubes, and what's even more nice is that there are no more floating hypertube cannons all over the place, except for one that I can see right there. Go away. Cool. And on the topic of good news, things for the most part with our aluminum setup have been fantastic. There are no major glaring issues. It's really just the fact that we don't have the Mark 6 belts. That's the big issue. Oh, I guess the last thing is I've done a little bit more decorating, made our little control room up there a little bit more interesting and neat, because I wanted to provide you guys with a world download to my patrons and Discord members. So if you support me on Patreon, the save will be available there. You can also join my private Discord, and the save is there too. So yeah, just wanted to polish a bunch of stuff up, get the hypertube room running, so you guys can enjoy all this stuff and mess around with a full aluminum build here. Now, all the good news is to say, there's some bad news. Bad news for me. It's technically good news, but yeah, bad news for me. All right, this was a comment in some of my previous Satisfactory videos, where they're asking why I decided to use the aluminum scrap recipe that I ended up using. So the recipe we're using right now takes a solution, coal, and makes a bunch of scrap. However, there is an alternate that uses petroleum coke instead of coal. And technically, the solution to scrap ratio is a little bit better. This recipe is 1.5, essentially bauxite to aluminum, and for this recipe, it's 1.67 bauxite to aluminum. So it is a very, very small difference. And people are like, why did you go with the less efficient recipe? And it's because I didn't want to use up oil. Petroleum coke uses oil, and I had other plans for the oil. Except when you... Call to the void is loud today. What was I saying? Oh yes. Except when you take small numbers like this and times it by big numbers, they become big numbers. So in almost any situation, you probably actually want to use this recipe here that uses the petroleum coke. But in my notes, I was just like, whatever, we'll just use SAM, we'll make extra bauxite, and it'll be fine. But then I gave it a little bit of further review. And this is Satisfactory Modeler. It's a free program on Steam, and it's how I do about 20% of my planning here, just to get a gist of things. And it can show you just like, hey, if I have this much bauxite, I use these recipes, this is how many ingots I come up with. So using the current setup, we end up with 11,000 aluminum ingots. Using the alternate recipe, we end up with an extra 1,000 and change there. Pretty good. But following this down to the oil, we end up using 1,200 crude oil per minute. And is that worth it? I didn't think so. Until I ran the rest of the numbers here and saw the SAM requirements. Now the difference in raw SAM is negligible, like 370 per minute. I didn't really think I'd sweat it, especially for 1,200 oil per minute. Except I'm going to be using Caterium to convert into bauxite. And the Caterium difference is absurd. 3,750 to make the 3,000 bauxite to go towards my end goal there, versus the plan with my current setup needs 6,528 Caterium per minute, and that's quite literally half of it in the whole world. And I did plan for this, but that would be so annoying to actually bring all to one location. So yeah, we're gonna be switching gears here. And yes, you heard me correctly. After building this entire setup, dealing with all of the load balancing nonsense, I'm changing the whole thing to this recipe. And switching these systems up, although tedious, won't be like, okay, it's gonna be pretty bad, but not the worst thing in the world. I was reviewing things and I have a bit of a plan here, wherein we can combine these pipes together. And in here, when we switch the recipe, and it needs 180 alumina and 60 petroleum coke, right? That is per machine. And I wanna do all of this in conjunction with the sloppy alumina recipe. So with 3 of these refineries, each of them produce 240 alumina solution per minute. So 240 times 3, 720 alumina solution. These machines need 180 each, but 720 divided by 180 is 4. So what we can do is have 3 of these refineries go into 4 of these refineries, making scrap. Now to fit with everything we have built, all we needed to do is overclock one of these bad boys, and there we go. The alumina solution matches from the first set to the second set. Easy peasy. Only thing is, we're going to have a problem where we have too much solution being made. Like, we can't just have what we have here, where we pipe one machine to the next. Instead, so the system doesn't overflow, we're going to have these mergers / splitters and valves move the material through the machines. So this is gonna make 240 solution, 180 will be used across the way here, and then the 60 extra will go down into here, make a 300 pipe, or 180 goes into this system, leaving a 120 pipe, combines with this for 360 solution per minute. That all goes into this final overclocked machine that needs 360 solution per minute. So we got a simple workaround, just requires building a couple more pipes here, and we have to do it a lot of times. Oh gosh, probably the worst part is I have to redo all of the belt work for the scrap. Because at the end of the day now, we're gonna be making 600 belts of aluminum scrap instead of the 720 belts. So there's gonna be a lot more belts, and in fact, there's gonna be a lot more smelters too. Because of course there has to be. Yeah, we're making more scrap. We are producing more aluminum ingots per minute now. So yeah, there's always gonna be more of these smelters. Well, that's fine. We have, again, plenty of space. It was more so keeping things aesthetic looking. That was the main problem here. But I think I managed. I even added in some extra stuff, some like pillars to make it look like, I don't know, the floors are being held up somehow. I've had to make an entire extra logistics pillar going up to another set of awesome sinks on the ceiling. But it's worth it because more aluminum, right? Right. And by the way, I'm making all these changes for the world save you're gonna download, so don't worry. It's all gonna be switched over to the electrode scrap recipe, and it'll be fine. And yeah, the belt work too, it wasn't the worst. And nice thing too, actually, was we saved on a bunch of water. I think we ended up saving, geez Louise, get out of my way. We ended up saving around 3,000 water per minute by changing over to this recipe as well. So now we have like an extra pipe over here, ready to rock and roll to do other things. Now the final thing is we have to get the petroleum coke. We need a lot of it. But I have made some blueprints to help us out. So we have a heavy oil residue set of refineries, and then the matching set that goes right in front. And how this works is 75 crude oil will go into one machine, make 100 heavy oil residue. 100 heavy oil residue goes directly into the next, and then we'll have to organize all the belt work for the coke. We also get a bunch of polymer resin from all of this, but it's kind of negligible. And then all in, it takes 1,520 crude oil per minute, but we have 1,800 here that's left over from the power plant, so yeah. not a concern. It's just gonna be taking the blueprints and the spam, 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 spam. And yes, you better believe it only took a good bajillion hours, but it's fine. The load balancing actually was no problem at all. Look at this. Do you see any craziness? Well, a little bit of craziness, but like, it's okay. No biggie. And hopefully, this runs a lot better. At least once it's all warmed up. Remember, our coupons upstairs were about 800 and 900,000 points per minute. So with this system, we might break 1 million. Well, we're about to find out. Crude is loading in the resin off to the sink. And then we just have to power these on. So, boop, bop. Now we're getting our petroleum coke, brother. As I fly past the thousands of coal that I gathered earlier, that was pointless for the foreseeable future. That does look good though, pretty. At least until it all finishes loading up here. But the systems are back online. The solution is moving, it is grooving. We are making the scrap, slowly. And down this way, are the pipes filling up? This one's looking okay. This is looking okay. I'm just looking at the flow rate there. It seems fine. Seems fine. Efficiency is 8%. It's going up. We're going to the moon. But just like the first test today, gotta wait for everything to boot up here. Okay, so crazy development. I did some decorating here and there, and I have like a cool idea, but I don't 100% know what I feel about it. Where I added in some like steam tops to this. It's kind of like the steam goes into a pipe, adds a little bit of detail. Looks a little weird though, so I did only part of the system. But no, I literally just found this and I thought it was hilarious. But we have a problem upstairs with the coal coke. Somehow, some way, we don't have enough oil. How, what? How do we not have enough oil? Now, if you're asking me, I'm gonna assume it's because of some goofy past Kib's mistake. Are we losing power? No, power is fine. It's been about this for a very long time. So let's go and check out the pipe then, eh? Which direction do we want to go in? Is that never end east? Yes, east. Let's go over to our turbo fuel power plant. It has been a minute since I've been here. And all of the oil for our base is coming down this big pipeline. And I'm seeing in this pipe that it's full. So what's the, wait a second. Why is this yellow? What? Wait, is this not full? Flow rate Zippo? Or at least it's very low? This should be 600 per minute. Or at least like bounce around like this one. What on earth? Man, these fluid buffers better be freaking empty or I'm gonna be so mad. I am currently so mad. Oh. Now that is interesting. How is that possible? Going back down this way. That should be an impure node. And down here, we do have a pump, which is fine on head lift, but it's not pumping anything. And this is idle? There's only one option that could be happening right here. Sometimes with floor holes, they just don't work. So if we rebuild and add in this. All right, there we go. We're back, baby. That's gonna be green or white because it's overclocked. And it looks like that problem is kind of all over the place here. So besides this being empty, it's being filled now. Any other problems like that? Nope. Yeah, that's filling up. This one, yeah, just fixed it. And so now back at base, we should be right as rain. And I do think that be the case because we are now making 1.1 million points per minute. And with that, I'm happy to call it here. So again, if you want to support me over on Patreon, you can mess around with this world yourself. And if not, I just hope you enjoyed, and if you did, subscribe for more. And for now, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye.